All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm Natalie, your training specialist, and today we're doing an introduction to Ring Central End User. So it's getting started with Ring Central products and the end user perspective. Now, during our time today, we do like to keep it as interactive as possible. And I know it's going to be a little bit more different since we're all in that conference room together. So Charles, for you, if you feel like you guys need to ask those questions, which I highly encourage, feel free to unmute yourself or just keep yourself off mute the entire time. But if there's some background noise, I might ask you to mute yourself. If you don't want to verbally ask questions, you can feel free to chat them over, and that way I can kind of just keep track of them, and then I can touch base on them at the end of the session. Otherwise, I will also be sending some links through the chat as well, so that way, Charles, you can disperse these out to everybody who's joining on the session. All right. Now, before we go ahead and get started today, I do just want to let everybody know that we really cover the basics just to get you guys started with our products and apps. So that does not mean that your training has to end here today. You can always head over to Ring Central University, and this is where you're able to locate documents and resources and even videos on the topics that we'll be talking about today. What those topics are going to be is calling from anywhere. So this is going to be using our Ring Central soft phone application, as well as your Polycom device VVX311. After that, we'll be jumping into managing your extension settings. So this would be setting up some behind the scenes settings that you can do for your physical phone as well as your soft phone. After managing those extension settings, we're going to jump into conferencing and collaborating. So this is going to be Ring Central meetings, and that's what we're currently in at the moment. And then after that, we will be jumping into our Ring Central app, which is going to be used for messaging. Now, Charles, does this agenda look good for today? Anything less or anything more that you would like me to cover?
Do we get the Yale W52P in there?
That was not on the order form. So, yeah, so I was going to say we do have a really full schedule today within this hour time slot. So what we can do is we can definitely touch on the topics that was ordered through the form, and then if we have time, I could definitely try to pull up some of that Yale device. And you said it was which model?
The W52P.
W52P. Okay, so hopefully we'll have some time to go ahead and cover that. Is there anything else or anything you want me to take off of the agenda for today?
I think we're good.
Okay, sounds awesome. We'll go ahead and jump right into talking about calling from anywhere. So what I have here is that you guys will be using the Ring Central soft phone application, which has the blue phone on it. I always like to double check in this section because you can use the Ring Central app for calling as well that has the blue R on it. So I just want to make sure I'm covering the right one. So Charles, are you guys using the one with the blue phone on it?
Yes, we are.
Perfect, okay. And just to give you guys a little idea of what it looks like here, here's kind of a general picture of it, as well as some of the key features it has to offer. So what we're going to be taking a look at today is how to add in some contacts while also viewing the presence of some other colleagues, which is going to be are they available or busy. And you can also send and receive text messages right from this application and faxing as well. So we're going to take a look at all of these features here. But let me go ahead and pull up my soft phone application so that way we can live demo what this is going to look like. So once you guys have that soft phone downloaded onto your desktop or even onto your mobile phone, you're going to log in with those Ring Central credentials that you created during the activation process. And what you're going to see here in the top left-hand corner is going to be your direct line. Now, when you click on that direct line, you're going to be able to view your profile. Now, your profile is going to have your name, where you can set a customized status if you need to, or you can change your presence. Now with this status here, you're going to be able to see that it will set you to either available, busy, do not disturb, or invisible. But let's say you want to give more detail to that. So maybe you're busy and you want to just say that you're in a meeting. You can go ahead, type out what your status is, hit enter, and that way anybody who is viewing your contact through the soft phone can see exactly why you're busy here. Otherwise, feel free to just go ahead and delete that status there, and you can just leave it blank. Now down here, it's really easy to go ahead and switch your presence. So let's say you're available. You can always just click on the available option. You'll be set to green. If you're busy, but I want to make sure I keep myself on busy since I'm training you guys today, you are going to have that red dot located up there, letting people know that maybe now is not the best time to contact you. But if you're super busy and you don't want your phone to be ringing off the hook, you can always set yourself to do not disturb, DND. What this is going to do is take all of your incoming calls and send them straight to your voicemail. So that way it's not ringing off the hook and the other person doesn't have to sit through all those rings just to get to your voicemail greeting. Just remember when you're ready to take yourself off of D&D, you switch back to available or busy or invisible. Now invisible is really just going to keep people guessing, are you free or are you busy? So I'm going to go ahead and just close out of my profile area, and what we're going to be focusing on next is going to be the top menu options. So once I can get my box to be drawn up here, there we go. My computer's obviously really slow, so I just drew 3, but we're going to be focusing on these options up here, and how we can see what they are is just by hovering over them. So here we have messages. Messages is where you're going to be able to view things like text messages, voice messages, and even your faxes. Now, if you are looking for a specific one, you can always come up to the top and search or filter through by clicking on that top area here. Now, with checking your voicemail messages, you could always just click on the voicemail tab, click on the voicemail that you want to listen to, and hit play. What's nice about this is there's no PIN required when you want to check your voicemail messages from your soft phone application. Now moving over to our favorites here, this is our star icon. This is where we can add internal and external contacts of people that we talk to the most. So you can see here that I have Amber, Carol, and Jonathan as my internal contacts, and I can see their presence. But with customer 1 and mom, those are my external contacts, I can't view their presence, but I can still easily call, text, or fax out to them. Now I'm going to hop over here to the call log, and this is where I'm going to be able to view all of my missed incoming and outgoing calls. Again, you can filter through or you can search for a specific call. After call log, you have your contacts. This is where you will have all of your internal contacts automatically uploaded for you. And if you need to add any external contacts in, you can always click on this plus sign right here and go ahead and manually enter in that contact. Now after contacts, we do have our HUD, which is our heads up display. This is where we can add up to 100 internal contacts as speed dials. Now what I like to use this for is if I want to keep an eye on all of my colleagues just to see when would be a great time to host a meeting or have that training phone call. Right now I can see that Jonathan and Kyle are busy, but majority of our users are available. Now what's also nice about this feature is if you don't want to leave your soft phone application up the entire time on your desktop, you can always undock this. What undocking will do is it's going to take all these speed dials and place them into another window where you can adjust this feature here, you can move it around, and you can easily keep an eye on everybody or call or text out to them if you need to. When you're done, you just close out of this window and then you'll just be able to use your HUD and your soft phone. Now last but certainly not least here, this is going to be our dial pad. So this is where we can make those outbound calls. So a few ways of how you can make those outbound calls is by using your keypad on your laptop or computer to go ahead and dial out that phone number. You can use the dial pad by selecting the correct number. Or if you're like me, I don't memorize phone numbers, so I just go ahead and type out the person's name as long as they're in my directory. So here I can see my contact Rose Quartz. I can see Rose as an internal contact because I can view Rose's presence as well as see her extension and direct number. Now, before I go ahead and give Rose a call, which it looks like she just turned busy, so I'm going to try to reach out to another one here, Santiago. Let's see, there we go. I just want to open it up for any questions that you guys might have in the profile section or in our main menu options. All right, I'm going to guess that we have no questions here. We're feeling pretty comfortable with the content. So let's go. Yeah, of course. No,
I'm
that's okay.
gathering questions.
No, not a problem.
Can you get a rotary phone? Can we get a rotary phone?
I'm going to skip that question and go to the next.
Not carry cell phones. Yes. What's the question? This is an application. Well, this is an application that you can install on your computer. So you can have access to your phone, all platforms. So, yes.
So if somebody texted my work phone, I'd be able to receive the text on my computer?
Yeah, the question, Natalie, is if someone texts your work number, you'll be able to receive the text on the computer?
Yes, and it won't go through to like your actual computer. What we're going to take a peek at after we call Santiago, and you know what, let's actually just dive into it now since you asked, but those features are actually located at the bottom here in the soft phone. So what we're going to see is, and of course my computer's just being extra slow today, but we're going to take a look at the texting and faxing, which is going to be located down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So if someone does text your direct line, it is going to appear in the messages icon up here. That's where you can view all of your text, fax, and voicemails. But if you want to compose a text out to a contact, whether it's internal and external, you can always come down to that icon I just showed you down here. You can go ahead and type out the person's name or phone number, and you can also type out a message, send any attachments or emojis. And again, you'll see those messages in your messages icon, and it'll be under text. And for an example of how it'll appear, it's going to appear just like a normal conversation you'd see on your personal cell phone. So you'll get a notification, but it won't go to like your computer texting if you're using a Mac or anything like that. It'll go to your soft phone.
Very good.
Yeah, great question. Was there any other questions?
Looks like no. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And we do have a few more features to look at. So if anything else comes up along the way, don't be shy and we can ask in again just a few moments here. All right, so I'm going to hit back. We were at the dialing pad where we were going to go ahead and make a call out to Santiago. So let's go ahead and give Santiago a call here. And now what we're going to be taking a peek at is all of the active call features, which are going to be located in the middle of the phone here. Now, some of these are probably going to look very familiar because a lot of them do reflect what you see on your personal cell phone. So looking at this top row here, we do have our mute option, so that way you can always mute yourself when you're on the phone call. You could also access the keypad if you need to. So if we need to make any other selections or dial out to anybody else. Maybe Santiago is very soft-spoken, so we want to go ahead and adjust that audio. We can always place Santiago on hold. And I am going to hop over here to add. And now add is going to be used for conference calling. So typically when we think of conference calling, we think of three-way calling. But this is actually going to be used for adding 7 other members on the line if we need to. So a total of 8, including yourself. Now what you're going to have to do is you'll click on the add button, and then this is where we can go ahead and type out that phone number extension or type out the person's name. Oops, Rose, there we go. And we can go ahead and call Rose here and see if we can get her connected onto our conference call. Now it's blocking it now, but what I can see here is a plus sign. When I click on plus, it is going to show us here is Rose's line and here is Santiago's line. So we have 2 people on the line, including myself. Again, we can keep adding more people on if we need to. And what's awesome is maybe I don't need Rose on the line anymore. I can just hang up on Rose and then it's back to Santiago and I.
A quick question.
Of course.
Is that adding feature, can you add an external number?
Yes, you definitely can add an external number. So you just have to type in the phone number up here instead of that person's name or extension.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, yeah. Okay. Looking down here at the bottom, we have transferring. We have 3 different types of transferring. We have a warm, a blind, and a send a voicemail. So what you would have to do is come up here and let's say I need to get Rose over to Amberger here. I can go ahead and warm transfer Rose over to Amber. And this is known as our consultative transfer. So it means I'm going to speak with Amber first, give her a heads up about the call, make sure she's available, and then I can go ahead and transfer Rose off. If I'd rather complete a blind transfer, which is also known as a cold transfer, this just means I'm sending over Rose to Amber without being in contact first. So maybe I'm not sure if Amber's going to pick up the phone or not, but maybe I don't have enough time to go ahead and just, consult with everybody before I transfer them off. Now the last option is sending to voicemail here. So maybe I know Amber's out of the office on vacation, but Rose still really wants to leave a voicemail for her. Instead of making her sit through all those rings, I can just send her directly to her voicemail greeting. Now we are going to hop over just one more here to call flip. Now call flip is definitely a fan favorite and one of mine. This is where you can flip your call to another device. So for an example, right now I am speaking to Rose on my laptop on the softphone application. All of a sudden I realize my laptop is about to die and I forgot my charger. What I can do is I can flip this call to another device I have on my account, or I can flip it to a custom number. So maybe my number is not on my account, but I do have like a cell phone I'd like to flip the call to. I can type in this phone number here and say, this is my cell phone. I can hit flip, and what's going to happen is it's going to flip that call to that device. So that way when my computer dies, Rose and I are still connected and we don't have to worry about calling each other back. So again, those are all of our active call features. So when we're on a phone call with another member, user, or external contact. So before I open it up for any other questions, I am going to show you what an incoming call looks like. So that was us making that outbound call and looking at all those active call features. But now let's go ahead and see what an incoming call looks like. Should be appearing here at any moment. All right, so here's that incoming call where it allows me to say I'd like to forward my call on to another device I have on my account. I can click on a custom number, and this is where I can enter in a custom phone number like another colleague of mine. I can reply to this phone call with a message. So, hey, maybe call me back in 10 minutes, a little busy right now. I can ignore this call, send it to a voicemail, or I can just simply answer the phone call. And what I'm going to see is all the same active call features that I saw when I was speaking with Santiago. So again, outbound calls, incoming calls. We already looked at texting, but there's one last feature I'd like to point out, which is your e-faxing. So what's really nice about your direct line here at RingCentral is it pairs as a faxing and a texting number. So essentially it's a 3-for-1 here. So if you would like to see any of your received faxes that got sent to your direct line, remember you are going to go up to the messages icon. If you are going to be heavily faxing out, you're going to come down here to the bottom and click on Compose Fax. This is where you can enter in the phone number or name of the colleague that you're trying to fax out to. You can enter in a cover page if you'd like to, and you can choose from any of the ones that we have on the soft phone. You can view what it looks like by clicking on the eye. Maybe you want a custom cover page, you can always add one here, or you can always select none if you don't need one. Down here is where we can add in a little note. So I wrote faxes are fun in this area, and this will be presented on the cover page itself. And when we're ready to go ahead and send off that fax, we just have to make sure we either drag and drop it into this area, attach it with a paper clip, and then we can click send now. So you can either drag and drop or attach with the paper clip and then hit send now. Now what we can see here is it does give us a faxing size. It's approximately 20 megs, or it could be up to 200 pages. Now I know we just went through a ton of features on the soft phone application. So did anyone else think of any questions they'd like to ask, or maybe comments on the soft phone?
I have a quick question. What types of files can we attach to a fax?
As far as like Word documents, or is there anything specific that you were looking for that you were curious about?
I was just curious, like, can you fax a Word document, or do you have to convert it to a PDF or a JPEG? Or
No, you should be able to just fax it straight from here, whether it is like that JPEG or PDF or whatnot. And if you do try to send something that you can't, it will give you a little pop-up warning. But from my understanding, no restrictions here so far.
any other questions? Yes, Larry. Well, it has to call a fax line. So fax has to be sent to a fax line. Well, it goes to a smart fax, they call it. So it's a virtual fax. Yeah. But it's not actually getting printed out somewhere with giant bays. I mean, it may be, but I doubt it.
Yeah, this is nice. No faxing machine that we have to go to. We can just do it directly from this soft phone application.
Very good. Any other questions? Yeah, you can send to a regular hard fax machine, right?
Yeah, as long as you have that faxing number here, you're going to be good. So just kind of think about this as like your starting point and your end point. You can either start a fax and send it wherever, or if someone does fax to your direct line or your Ring Central number, you'll receive it here through the soft phone.
Cool. Any other questions? All right, I think we're all set for the next section. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Perfect. So let's go ahead then, and we're going to jump into talking about that Polycom VVX311 here. So this is going to be the opposite of what we're just looking at. That was our soft phone. So software based on your computer or mobile app. Now this is going to be focusing on the physical desk phone. So your hardware. Now I know the name VVX311 probably doesn't, ring a bell or kind of go into any context here, but it really just is the model of the phone. And we're going to be covering the basics of this device here and just the lay of the land. So first we're going to start by looking at this home key here, and this is going to bring up different options on your main menu screen. You also have your scroll and select, which is going to allow you to scroll through different selections. We have our voicemail key. So this is where we can check voicemail messages. We also have a transfer button, a hold button, and if you are going to be using a headset with your device, you can always use the headset pickup option, speakerphone, mute, and then volume. Now with volume here, if the receiver is on the device, it is going to be adjusting the volume of the ringer. But if you are speaking with another member on the phone, it's going to be just how you are listening to them. So for outgoing calls, sometimes we are used to dialing a special number before we dial out, but with Ring Central, and this goes for the soft phone as well as the physical phone, there's no need to press a 9 or 1 or any other number before we go ahead and make that outbound call. Now what we can do with the scroll and select options is we can actually take a look at all of our recent calls, whether they're incoming, outgoing, or missed. So if we go ahead and we click over to the left arrow right here, so spot number 1, this is going to show us all of our received calls. Now when we go ahead and select the down arrow here, so spot number 2, Oops, and it looks like I'm a little off here on the slides. Let's go back here. So try to ignore some of these numbers as we go through it. But if you click on this left arrow here, it's going to go through your most recent received calls. You can press the downwards arrow to get to all of your missed calls. And then you can click on this right arrow, and that's going to show you all of your placed calls. So it's just kind of easier access to view all those call logs. And then really what all these other options are telling you is that you can use the scroll and select option to go ahead and call back any of those contacts. So whether it was received, missed, or placed, you can still go ahead and from that call log list, give that extension or phone number a call back. So sorry for me scrolling through all of those there. But we're going to go ahead and look at line keys located down here at the bottom. These are also known as our soft keys as well. So we have line keys on the left and right hand side here. These are going to be used to add in some speed dials as well as view the presence of those speed dials. And then our soft keys located down here, these are called soft keys because they're software based, just like that soft phone. They will change depending if you're on an active call or not. So what we're seeing up here, and we'll talk more about these line keys once we get into the online portal and how to add speed dials in. But what you're seeing down here for the soft keys is on your main screen. You can select new call, which this is going to dial out as a new outbound call, and it will come through almost as a speakerphone. We do have intercom, which it does look like you guys are using the intercom feature. This is almost like a walkie-talkie where you can talk back and forth between your device and it will blast through the speaker like a speakerphone phone call. So you'll hit intercom and you want to make sure you dial out that extension, and then that way you and that other user or member can speak back and forth. Now remember, D&D is that do not disturb, so it's going to take all of your incoming calls and send them straight to voicemail. Now, if you set yourself to D&D on this phone or your soft phone application, it is across devices. So meaning whether you set it on one, it is going to set the other device on D&D as well. You can't do it one by one. Now our soft keys have changed when we're on an active call. So here we can see I'm talking to Crash Landon. I can place Crash on hold, or remember we do have that hold key here. I can also end the call or just hang up the receiver. I can transfer the call, which we'll talk about those 3 different types of transfers here in just a moment. And I can also select on the more option. Under that more option, what we're going to see are some things like conferencing, parking, and line keys. And we'll talk about those in just a few moments. All right, for our transferring, so just going back here with this transfer key, we do still have that warm, that blind, and transfer to voicemail option, just like the soft phone. So let's talk about how to warm transfer. I don't want to bore you guys with me reading off the slide here step by step, so feel free to look through this as I'm talking. But remember that warm transfer is that consultative transfer. So we're talking to that other person first before just going ahead and transferring off that original contact. And we don't expect you guys to memorize this. I'll be sending off some documents here in just a few moments that'll walk you through these steps. There's our send key that's going to be located in the bottom left-hand side. Then we have blind transferring. So this is just sending off that user to the other user without knowing if they're available or going to answer. But with the blind transfer, it is very similar to the warm transfer. You just want to make sure you're hitting the blind key before you dial out the extension or phone number. And it is nice that it does point out down here, remember we do have the transfer hard key as well. So it can be accessed from the soft keys as well as the hard key down here. There's that blind button that we're going to be working with. Just kind of walking us through the steps here. And then the last one is how to transfer to a voicemail. Now, when transferring to a voicemail, it's going to be very, very similar to a blind transfer. The only thing that you have to do differently is make sure you are hitting the *0 key before dialing out that extension. This is going to indicate instead of ringing the person's phone, it's just going to go directly to that voicemail greeting. Again, there's a blind key, and then just making sure we're hitting *0 here, and then the extension. And then the last slide that I really have for you here is checking your voicemail messages. Now, checking voicemail messages, this is where you're able to click on the voicemail key. You will have to enter in your PIN. And then with your PIN, it is going to allow you to follow the prompts. So prompts like things, changing your PIN, checking your voicemail messages, or even changing your voicemail greeting. So just make sure you are making the right selections there. And just to kind of recap here, we will be talking about how to add speed dials onto this Polycom device once we hop into that online portal. But are there any questions about the physical phone while I'm sending off the documentation to Charles through that chat?
Said that to make an outgoing call, you don't dial 911.
Yeah, Natalie, the question is, you don't have to dial 1 or 9, but if you're dialing an international number, do you need to dial the country code?
Yes, correct. So you will have to dial that country code. Think about it as if you're just using like your cell phone, you don't ever have to press a special number before you dial out. But if that international number, yes, has that country code or any special numbers before it, you will have to do so. But you don't have to add anything on top of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, for local calls, are we going to have to dial the area code like we do our phones together?
No. I've tested that, and you can test it on these phones that I've got set up, but you shouldn't need to dial 928 because that's our local, and it is local with Flagstaff specifically. If there's multiple 928 codes for different towns, so it depends on which 928 you're in. Well, it'll be on a 928 number. Yeah, it should be good for Flagstaff area. Okay, I think any other questions? Oh, John. Sure. Natalie, can you describe the process of receiving a warm transfer?
Yes, definitely. So I'll use me and Crash as an example here. And then Charles will also add you into the mix. But let's say that Crash and Charles are speaking on the phone, right? And Crash is like, oh, I need to get help with this and that and talk to so-and-so. And Charles is like, great, I know the person. I'm going to go ahead and transfer you off to Natalie. What's going to happen on my end is I'm going to see I have an incoming call coming from Charles. And what's going to happen is Charles and I are going to connect. He's going to say, hey, I have Crash on the line. He needs help with this. Can you go ahead and take this phone call? I'm going to say, yep, I'm available now. Go ahead and transfer him over to me. Once Charles goes ahead and hits that transfer key, it's then just going to be me and Crash on the line. So then Charles can hang up his phone, but we will still stay connected. So you will look like you're receiving a phone call from the person who's warm transferring off that other caller. Blind transfer, it's going to look like Crash's number that's calling into you. Did that help answer that question, or do you want me to go into a little more detail?
A little more detail. Hold on. Yeah, the question is, can you tell if it's a transfer versus a phone call, or on a conference call, can you tell if there's multiple people on the line, or does it look like?
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, they are just going to look like direct calls coming in. So we won't see anything like warm transfer, blind transfer, or conference calling. It's just going to look like the caller ID of whoever is conferencing in you or whoever is transferring to you.
Okay, that answers our question. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, I think we're all set. So let's continue.
Yeah, perfect. Let's go ahead and jump into talking about managing your extension settings here. Oh, and here, I didn't realize we had a conference slide here, and I apologize, guys, that we didn't cover this. But conference calling, and I'll go ahead and kind of show you the phone after this, but it's where you can conference in, like I said, another member. Now, do be aware that on the soft phone, it is up to 8 people, including yourself, but through the physical desk phone, it's just going to be you and 2 others, so 3 people. But it's fairly simple. We just enter and hit more, and then we can press the conference key, enter in the extension or phone number you're trying to conference out to, and then just hit conference again. Now, to help kind of get a visual representation of this, let's go back onto this slide here. That more button is located here, and what you're going to see is the soft key features will change, and you'll see a conference button here. So that's how we get to that conference key. Again, I'm sorry, I do apologize that I skipped over that slide here. But now, let's go ahead and jump into managing your extension settings. So this is going to be an online portal that you will have access to log into. And I always recommend going ahead and starring or favoriting this URL link here, because this is where you will go to make any changes or settings for your devices. And it is service.ringcentral.com. Now, once you get to this URL, and I always recommend just using Chrome for this, but you still can use other browsers. But you guys will be able to log in with a single sign-on. So here you're going to see the single sign-on option. And once you get in, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, of course.
Let's not do single sign-on. We're not gonna implement that right away. So we're just gonna log in with like an email and password.
Perfect. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for hopping on and letting me know as well. So disregard that single sign-on, use your company email address and then your Ring Central password. And once you do log into the portal, you're going to see some tabs up here at the top. The ones that we're going to be looking at is going to be the settings tab. This is going to have some key features we feel like are most beneficial for you guys when first setting up your phone. So the first one is going to be phones and numbers, and this is going to be where you can set up some speed dials and also view the presence of those speed dials. Then we have call handling and forwarding, and this is where you can go ahead and you can add in additional devices that could be like your personal cell phone or maybe a phone that you have at your home office. But we'll take a look at that in more depth. And then you can also set up your voicemail greeting from the messages tab as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up my test account here so we can take a peek at all of these features in a live demo. All right, so here we are. I'm logging in. I'm going to be under my extension, and this is what you guys will see first. So when you log in, you're going to have a dashboard that looks almost identical to mine, and you're going to want to come up to the settings tab. Now with that settings tab, remember those 3 key items that we're going to look at was phones and numbers. And this is where we can add in those speed dials. Now with those speed dials, remember we can view the presence of those users. So this is going to be very similar to the HUD, the heads-up display on the soft phone, where we can see if someone's available, busy, or even receiving an incoming call. Now there are quite a few steps to go ahead and add those speed dials in, so I always like to say kind of a silly phrase here, and it's going to be follow the P's for this section. So what that means is we start in phones and numbers, we're going to jump into phones, and then we're going to jump into the presence key. So phones, and presence, follow the P's. Once we get into the presence area, you are going to see your name and your extension listed out on line keys 1 and 2. That is because line 1 is your actual line, and line 2 is going to be any call waiting. So we can't adjust these are locked. But you do have a total of 6 line keys on your phone, so 3 on each side. But if we're taking away those 2 here, that means that you can add 4 additional line keys. So that is going to be lines 3 through 6 here. Now it's fairly simple to go ahead and add those line keys in. All you're going to have to do is come over and say select a user here. And we can search through that long list and we can see who we'd like to add. There we go. And let's say I would like to add Jesse here. I can click on Jesse's name, done. And now Jesse has been added on as line key 3. I could do the same for 4, 5, and 6. Now, when you are finished, don't forget to hit the save button at the bottom, and you will see a little window that'll pop up saying your phone will reboot itself to go ahead and make these changes. It should only take about 30 to 35 seconds here, so nothing entirely long. But once your phone reboots, you'll see all those presence keys added, and you'll be able to easily dial out as well as see who's available and who's not. I'm going to go ahead and click no here just because it is my test account. I don't want to make those changes. But let's go ahead and jump down to call handling and forwarding now. This is where we can manage our incoming calls. So we can decide what device we'd like to have ring, for how long, and add additional devices on that are non-related to Ring Central. By default, you do get set for a sequential ringing, which means it's going to ring these devices in order. So it's going to first ring device number 1 when you receive a phone call. And if you don't answer on that device, it's then going to move on to device number 2, 3, and 4 until you either answer on one of these devices, or if you don't, it's just going to go straight to your voicemail greeting on the Ring Central side. Now, if you're not quite fond of that sequential order, we do have the option to set it to simultaneous. So that means it's going to ring all of these devices together. Now, the first one will always be your soft phone and mobile app. The second one will be your Polycom device, or if you are using that Yealink. And then the bottom 3 are going to be used for external numbers. So maybe like a work from home number, a mobile phone if you did not download the mobile app, or maybe a work from home phone, a landline. It's really up to you. You don't have to have numbers down here, but these are available if you would like to keep that system ringing. I always recommend coming in here, setting it to the way that you'd like, and then running some test calls just to make sure it is set up exactly how you would like it to be. Now, the last one that we will look at before I open it up for any questions is messages. Now, messages is where you're able to go to edit your voicemail greeting as well. So you can definitely do it from your physical phone, but maybe if you're on the go, you left the office too quickly, but you need to update that greeting, you can always log into this portal, change your greeting straight from this area. It'll show you your default first, but there is an option to customize it as well. Now, I know there's a lot of menu options in here that we didn't go through, but just when you get activated and logged in, take some time to click around in this area and see what other options are available. But do we feel pretty comfortable with this section, or do we have any questions, comments, or concerns we'd like to throw out there? All right, I'll take that as a no for now. We can always circle back, but let's go ahead and jump in. We got 2 more topics to talk about here with 13 minutes that we have left. So first thing is going to be conferencing and collaborating, so Ring Central meetings. This is what we're currently in at the moment, and this is where you can host your full collaborative session. So this is things like screen sharing, recording, video and audio sharing, annotation tools. And we're going to get to take a look at all of these features here in just a moment. How we're going to run through this section is how to schedule, join, and participate within a meeting. So let's go ahead and talk about that scheduling procedure here. So you will be downloading the Ring Central app. So this is a separate app than the phone application. And again, you're going to log in with your Ring Central credentials. And let's say we want to go ahead and schedule a meeting for sometime later this week. You are going to click on the schedule button here, and it's going to open up another window where we can go ahead and fill out all of our important meeting information. So let's say we want to change this topic and talk about phone training here. I can adjust the date and say, hey, maybe I want it for Saturday the 18th, and let's do 6:30 a.m. Nice and early, right, on a Saturday. We can adjust any video settings, audio options, and meeting options. Now, the one meeting option I do like to point out is this enable join before host. I always have this selected just because I do have back-to-back meetings. So sometimes if I can't make it in right at the top of the hour for that meeting, it allows my participants to go ahead and join in before me so that way they can get settled in. And maybe I need to say, hey, Charles, can you go ahead and start the meeting without me? And that way when I do log in, I can take over when I'm ready. If that doesn't seem like something that you would need to use, don't worry about checking that box. It's just going to have your participants go into a waiting room until you enter in. All right, calendar is up next. This is where you can integrate your calendar. So you want it to schedule on the calendar that you use, whether it's Google or Outlook or iCal. I use Outlook, so I can go ahead and click schedule here. And it's going to pull up my Outlook calendar. Now down here, we can see all of the joining information you probably saw today, or maybe Charles showed you guys when he was entering everyone into the meeting. But we're only going to focus on this top information here, as well as all the rest of the meeting settings. So just because you might have set it for 6:30 in the other window, you might have to adjust it all of a sudden to 6 a.m. instead. Or maybe we need to change the title or add a location in, we can. And this is also where we can invite our participants. When you have everyone invited that you need to and all the information filled out, you can send off the invite or click Save to schedule it to your calendar. Now, whether you are the host or a participant joining into the meeting, you'll join in the exact same way. You'll be able to join in by clicking open the invite itself. Maybe it's so early on a Saturday that you don't want to join in over the computer. You just want to lay in bed and join in straight from your iPhone. You definitely can. You can also click on the meeting URL link, which this is going to allow you to log in through the application or through a web browser. Or if you would like better audio, you can go ahead and dial in over the phone. Just make sure you have that meeting ID handy so that way you can join into the correct meeting with that phone call. Now on to the fun stuff. Once we join into the meeting, we can see all of our interactive features here. So what I typically do is say, everyone click on whichever features you would like as we go through this. But if you guys are interested after the training session, feel free to run some test meetings with your colleagues to play around with these features. But what you'll be able to see at the bottom here is that you can always mute or unmute yourself. You can always start and stop your video. So if you do have a camera attached, which I'll turn mine on just here for a second, give you guys a nice little wave and say hello. That way you can see everybody who is in the meeting with you. You can also click on the participant list, and this is going to show you everybody who is in the meeting, whether they're using audio or video. So it's a great way to keep track of attendance. You can also share your screen, which sharing your screen is what I'm doing right now, where I'm sharing my full desktop screen that has a PowerPoint. I've been pulling over applications to show you guys. But maybe that's too much and you just want to show one application at a time and then do some behind the scene things while you're sharing. You can definitely do that as well and just share one application. You can share apps on your phone. You can share what's called our whiteboard feature, which basically allows everybody to go ahead and draw on that whiteboard feature, annotate. So that way it gets people interactive and engaged. It's probably one of my favorite features. We also have the chat button, which allows you to chat out to everybody privately and publicly. So if you do want to chat out to one person directly, you can always choose their name and it will send as a private chat. Now the last one here, as a host, you are able to record your meeting sessions. So you can record it straight to the cloud or directly to your computer, so that way you'll have a copy of it. Now with meetings, you will have a license of 4. So that means you can invite 3 others into your meeting, so 4 including yourself.
Hi, Natalie, can you clarify that? I thought we were supposed to have 100 seats.
Oh, and no worries there. If you do have 100 seats, then definitely stick with that 100. All I have in my order form here shows that you guys were standard at 4. But if you were told 100, you guys will be able to have that 99 plus you.
Got it.
And I do apologize. Sometimes we get a little bit of different information here. So thank you, Charles, for hopping on the line and clarifying that as well.
No worries.
Yeah, are there any other questions you guys have on meetings before we go ahead and jump into our last topic here?
Yes, hold on just a sec.
If you have a recurring meeting, can you use the same number to join?
The question is, can you schedule a recurring meeting, like weekly, monthly, or do you have to send out a new meeting invite every time?
Pardon me. You can actually set it up for, let's see here. I'm pretty sure you can set it up for recurring. Yep, reoccurrence right up here. So yeah, and it's just going to generate the same meeting ID, but you can still use that again. So it's not like once it's used, you won't be able to. Yeah, great question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Deidre? Okay, yeah. The question is, if we start a meeting, can people without the RingCentral app join the meeting?
Yes, definitely. So we actually do have sometimes people who join in, and what tends to happen is they'll just be in a web browser version of it. So if they don't have the app, they can still join in as well.
And they can call in with a regular phone as well?
Yep, exactly. As long as they have that meeting ID and the correct number to dial out to, they will be connected through the phone as well. Anything else?
Yeah, hold on just a second.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, the question is, if someone calls into the RingCentral meeting and they're an international user from another country, will they be charged their long distance rates?
Great question. And actually what I will show you here is they will not, because we do have international numbers list. So if they click in here, what it'll give them is a number to actually dial in with. So that way they won't be charged those international fees.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, yeah, if you guys think of anything, feel free to shout it out. But we do have about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to try to kind of cruise us through this last messaging application here. All right. So next up on our list is the RingCentral app. This is the application that will have a blue R on it, and it is used for messaging. So this is where we can easily collaborate and communicate with our colleagues quickly. So what I'm just going to do is go ahead and pull up the application itself. And this is my test account here, just to kind of show us the basics to get you all started. Now this is what the messaging application looks like. Again, you'll log in with your RingCentral credentials. But let's take a peek over here at the left-hand side. This is really going to be all things messages. This is where we can see our favorites, our direct messages, and even team messaging. So what I can do is I can actually click on direct messages. It's going to expand it. And I can see all of my colleagues that I've been having conversations with. If I want to jump back into a conversation, I can go ahead and click on the person's name and it'll highlight them. And I can see our conversation that we've been having. This here in the middle is our conversation thread. I can type out my message below here. I can attach documents or PowerPoints or recordings. And what's really nice about this is there is no size limit. So it is unlimited file sharing here. I can also add emojis and GIFs, which is pretty fun. And I can favorite this contact, which means I can come up here to the star by their name, and it's going to move Heather's name all the way up into my favorites area, so that way we can easily find our conversation. But maybe her and I don't work that closely anymore. I can always unfavorite by clicking on the star again, and it's going to drop Heather back down to my direct messages. If you're looking to direct message someone who's not located in this list, you click on the plus sign here. You can type out their name. Or if you want to contact an external contact, you can click send text and type out that person's phone number. When you're ready, you hit continue, and it's going to pull up the exact same conversation thread that we're seeing here. Now, underneath direct messages, we have teams. Teams is where we can view a team that you're a part of. So these are going to be larger groups of maybe working on the same project or interested in the same things. You do have the option to create your own team, and you'll just manage some settings and invite your users. But what I'll go ahead and do is I'll just jump into Team We Love Corgis, because who doesn't here? And this is where I can see all of the conversation that's happening between this specific team as I scroll through. I can still favorite teams and have unlimited file sharing, GIFs, and emojis. But what I really want to focus on within Teams is over here to the right-hand side. This is our shelf. You do have this in direct messages as well, but I like to point it out through Teams just because we have more things that have been sent between us. This is where it keeps track of files that have been sent, links that have been sent, and who all is in this team. It's a nice way so that way you don't have to scroll through all these messages within a team to find maybe just that one picture of the Corgi file here. Now, if you hover over any of these, you can see that it will pop up a little picture. We can download the file or easily open up links that have been sent here. And like I mentioned, we can view members of this group while also add some additional members. Now, I know this app is pretty robust, but like I said, since we're on a little bit of a time limit here, I wanted to show you guys everything just to get you started. So what questions do we have about the messaging application?
Quick question. This is only internal, right? We can't invite someone outside the organization who doesn't have a seat with us.
Well, so this is internal, but you actually can message external numbers and users. There is a free version of this app. It just doesn't have all the features. So if you do wind up messaging someone externally, like I said, we would just want to make sure we send it out as a text, and then they can download the Ring Central app, but it's going to be very limited in what it does.
Got it.
Yeah, great question.
All right, I think we're good on that.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I know your time is valuable here, but I'll show you one last thing, and it's our support site. And I'm sending off the link to you now, Charles. That way, if you want to share it with everyone, you can. But it's just support.ringcentral.com. So if any of you guys want to learn more, or you want to dive a little bit deeper into a topic, you can search for that topic here, and it's going to bring up documents and resources and videos for you guys to watch. So that way you don't always have to call into our support team here at Ring Central. But yeah, do you guys have any last minute questions you guys want to ask before I let you off the line?
That's the Yay link, and I guess it wasn't included in our training order. So yes, there's information, but I don't have it handy, and apparently we don't have access to it through this training. So I'll make sure I get more details on the cordless model.
Yeah, and Charles, I'll send you guys some links and documentation for that as well in a follow-up email too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Because yeah, of course, and I apologize for that. Sometimes, our orders are a little bit different, so I'll reach out to your project manager as well too.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Anything else for you guys?
That's about it.
All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining in today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and welcome to Ring Central.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.